Moon Mondays, Uranus just entered Gemini this morning, just like hours ago. This is Monday morning. I don't know when you're watching, but Uranus just entered Gemini. And the last time it did that was in 1942, right in the middle of World War II. So that's a little sobering. It's interesting that Neptune entered Aries recently for the first time since 1862, which is during the American Civil War. And then Saturn recently entered Aries as well for the first time since 1996. And Jupiter just entered Cancer for the first time since 2013. So today's Moon Mondays isn't a dates or history lesson, but just a reminder that the outer planets are shifting archetypal energies all at once. There's a lot of dramatic energy shifts happening right now. So I'm Sheridan, your AstroLife coach, guiding women like you to harness the power of astrology to live with purpose and clarity, turning inner knowing into real life transformation. So, what does this mean for us, Uranus entering Gemini? So, Uranus is known as our planet of change and disruption. And Gemini is a sign that is known for disruption, changeability, getting out of the box, right? They both have this kind of air sign energetics to them, like nervous system, thinking, awareness, consciousness. So there's a doubling up of those energies. So there's a real invitation here for getting out of our boxes, right? And getting out of the way that we've been doing things forever and ever, right? Uranus also, I like to think of as the planet that increases our awareness of universal consciousness, universal awareness, right? Like Neptune and Uranus are the two planets that we consider from a shamanic astrology perspective as being celestial world planets, upper world planets. So their focus is a lot about how do we attune, connect into, commune with spirit, the goddess, those higher ideals, that type of more universal energy, rather than like Saturn and Jupiter that are like middle world planets that really have a lot to do with our kind of everyday 3D world. And then Pluto and Chiron are underworld or lower world planets that really encourage growth and transformation through deeply feeling experiences. It's not to say that Uranus and Neptune don't help us feel more different, feel more deeply, but it's different the way that they work, right? Pluto and Chiron really help us look at the shadow. Uranus and Neptune, sometimes we have to go to the shadow to get the gifts of being able to connect into the more communal, universal. So, Uranus entering Gemini, we'll know more in hindsight, but it'll be really interesting to see where there's more freedom, expansiveness, consciousness, awareness, and probably places that need to shift and change are going to come up and invite you to shift or change or grow all of us in some way. Uranus is still close to Venus as this is happening. So Venus met with Uranus and is moved on just a little bit, but is still really in the mix as Uranus shifts into Gemini today. So I think some of this disruption, hopefully, fingers crossed, is around more consciousness, awareness, empowerment of the divine feminine, which I think we're seeing like the threats of that and how we're kind of doubling down on sort of trying to stay connected to these patriarchal old ways. But hopefully, in time, we're going to see that the evidence of how this tide is turning, and that what we're seeing so much of right now is just this threat and this pushback to it, but that we are still moving in the direction of greater empowerment of the feminine and bringing the feminine and the masculine back into balance, which is better for all of us, no matter how we identify. Also, Uranus is trine Pluto as this transition happens too. So anytime there's these geometric connections between Uranus and Pluto, we can see a lot of change happening in the world very quickly. So trine is considered a more flowing aspect compared to like a square, but it's still an interaction between these two planets that can really help us like want to compost, change, disrupt, and make things different in our world, hopefully from a more conscious, empowering place. So when we talk about like change, getting out of the box, Uranus and Gemini, change obviously begins with us, which, speaking of, I'm going to lean into like what I've really been figuring out about this week, but it relates to this full moon in Capricorn coming on Thursday, right? So the full moon is always like a spectacular, energetic time. It's amazing to see. Sometimes we can't sleep. There's so much more light at night. And so this Capricorn full moon is opposite this Cancer sun. So it's both in these cardinal signs, or as I was taught at the Shamanic Astrology Mystery School, serving the community. And I just shorten it to like serving others signs, right? The cardinal signs are about serving others. This whole moon cycle from the Cancer new moon through the quarter moons and this Capricorn full moon are all in these cardinal serving other signs. So there's this huge opportunity with those. When we're serving others, the tendency with these signs, like the shadow side of them, is to overgive, overserve, like to our own abandonment and detriment. And as women, we are really encouraged to do that in our current world, right? We love women that will just completely abandon themselves, work themselves ragged so that they are taking care of us and meeting our needs, and we love them as martyrs, right? But that's not so great for those women or us women that have that tendency and can end up really depleted, running on empty, ragged, exhausted, sick, all of the above. So the key with these serving other signs is we really have to know how to rejuvenate, regenerate, and fill our cups up first to then give from a full place rather than an empty place, right? And if society loves us as givers, then we're so used to just abandoning ourselves and giving from that empty place. But as we all know, we're like crappy givers from an empty place, and it's not serving us or others very well. So it's really an important time of this moon cycle to tune into like, how are you taking care of yourself before you turn to serving and helping others in your world, right? So like for me, with like the sun entering Cancer at the solstice, and then we had that Cancer new moon and the Libra first quarter moon, like it was really up in my face. I have a lot of Cancer on my chart too. So this is particularly like activating my life path, all of this stuff right now. And it was just really clear, like where I was not nurturing and taking care of myself and just getting too busy and pushing because I just felt like I had to. And I realized, whoa, I need to make a change. And if I'm not doing that for myself, then I'm not contributing to the change of the feminine, right? If I stay over busy, not nurturing myself, not tuning into myself, not listening to myself, then I'm keeping that aspect, that shadow side afloat. I'm giving it energy as opposed to like, ooh, okay, something is not working here. I had a therapist tell me that's a check engine light coming on. The check engine light's on, it's flashing. I need to stop and go, wait, where am I out of alignment? What's not working for me here? And then find solutions and make a change. And I was like, okay, I need to get a virtual assistant big time so that I can like focus on the things that I love to do in my business and not spending so much time on all of these like admin jobs that are just kind of sucking my energy and I'm feeling empty for everything else. So that's one kind of example of what this Capricorn full moon can offer, as well as this whole Uranus moving into Gemini and all of this energy that's like shifting that is wanting us to make some changes within. So, also, I'll just lastly say Saturn's going retrograde at the end of this week. So, like Neptune just did, they're both in Aries. They've gone retrograde, they're turning retrograde, moving back into Pisces, and then eventually they'll move back into Aries again. So we're having these archetypal swings and shifts of this energy of Pisces, the collective, and where does that meet the individual, Aries, and the intersection of those two energies. So it's a lot of major archetypal energies changing. So it's okay to just like stop, listen, and course correct consciously as you feel called to, need to, all of the above. If you're interested to consciously tune into yourself more, utilizing the phases of the moon, knowing that life has more in store for you, I invite you to check out my Moon Sister Circle. It's a sacred space where we align with the moon's cycles and use soulful life coaching to reconnect with who we truly are underneath all the external conditioning. You can learn more at the link below. And I will see you next week when Mercury gets in on the retrograde party as well. And it's not something to fear when Mercury is retrograde, but something rather to embrace. So thanks for watching, and I wish you an empowered, sacred feminine week.